more. Let's bring in Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty, who's a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Hagerty, your thoughts on what we just learned from Trey?
Well, first, Jackie, I'd just like to say good morning. And on this Memorial Day weekend, I'd like to acknowledge our veterans and those active duty who are in harm's way today. We all very much appreciate them and want to honor them this weekend. In terms of what Trey had to say, I'm very pleased to see we continue in the path that President Trump has very clearly articulated that he's not going to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. We've seen their behavior. We know what could happen. Contrast this, Jackie, to what happened under Biden and Obama with the JCPOA. They clearly put them on a path to obtain a nuclear weapon. President Trump has, instead of used a fake diplomacy and bribery, as Obama's administration did, he's actually used military force to put the Iranian regime in a position where they have to negotiate very seriously. And I think it's made it very clear to them that there will be no nuclear weapons coming from Iran.
Yeah, we're obviously still waiting for the White House to put out, the fullness of what's being discussed here. But there was some early reaction overnight and early this morning that the White House pretty swiftly responded to. You had folks, some of your colleagues, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, criticizing what was out there in the media about it. Pompeo said the deal being floated with Iran seems straight out of the Wendy Sherman, Rob Malley, Ben Rhodes playbook. Pay the IRGC to build a weapon of mass destruction program and terrorize the world. The White House Communications Director, Stephen Chung, pretty quickly swatted that down, saying Pompeo is not read in on this. He doesn't know what he's talking about, and, quote, he should shut his stupid mouth and leave the real work to the professionals. Then this morning, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked about all this. He tried to quiet the concern. Here's what he said.
The idea that somehow this president, given everything he's already proven he's willing to do, is going to somehow agree to a deal that ultimately winds up putting Iran in a stronger position when it comes to nuclear ambitions is absurd.
So what do you need to hear in terms of a final agreement for you to get behind it?
Well, and certainly we all need to see a final agreement, but what I heard this morning, you just recited it, is exactly what I would expect to hear, that it's been made very clear. There will be no final agreement until it's clear that Iran has no path to enrich, that they will have no path to have a nuclear weapon. The exact opposite of what Obama and Biden did. I think what you've seen is the Obama administration officials, those that were cited, basically praying that they're not going to be completely embarrassed, which I think they will be, because President Trump is going to come up with a fundamentally deal that is the opposite of what the JCPOA addressed. So I'm looking forward to seeing the terms. I think the terms will be strict. I think they'll be very enforceable. And remember, Jackie, President Trump has used military force to basically annihilate the economic, the technological, and the military capacity of the Iranian regime. They're in a fundamentally different place. They don't have the room to negotiate the way they did with Obama, when Obama was basically trying to bribe them to do exactly what they intended to do, and that was to build a nuclear weapon. Trump has reversed the tables, and again, using military force and strength is the way we're getting here. President Trump has been the one to deliver it, the only president that's stepped up to do it.
Okay. Senator, I want to get your thoughts on some other big news this week. You had Congress go home. They're now set to miss the president's June 1st deadline to pass reconciliation package to fund immigration enforcement after the Senate balked at this new DOJ anti-weaponization fund. You had the acting AG, Todd Blanche, go to the Hill to try to quiet some concerns. He ended up being grilled for more than 2 hours by a number of your colleagues. Here's how Ted Cruz described that meeting.
There were fireworks at an epic level. And I got to say, it's one of the roughest meetings I've seen in my entire time in the Senate.
Have you heard about, the details about this fund? Are you comfortable with it as it's been laid out?
Well, I was presiding on the Senate floor at the time that this meeting took place, so I was not in the meeting. But had I been there, I'm very much in favor of addressing the weaponization of government, particularly of the DOJ, that the Biden administration utilized. Think about the reason that we're here. They leaked President Trump's tax returns. They invaded his home at Mar-a-Lago, put everything on television. It's unbelievable and unconscionable what they did in terms of violating his rights, weaponizing government and judicial services to go after President Trump, President Biden's opponent. They've done it to me. If you think about what happened with Arctic Frost, they came after senators' phone records illegally, violating the Constitution. The funds are not for President Trump or his family. They're not for me. What they're for are people who have actually suffered monetary consequences, and that has been very real. Ron Johnson was just on the program beforehand talking about a judge in his home state of Wisconsin who represented President Trump and has now expended $2 million worth of legal fees fighting the Biden DOJ. This is the type of thing that needs to be addressed. There needs to be accountability throughout the DOJ. And I'm glad to see Todd Blanche addressing this finally.
The critics have blasted, how it was set up, for instance, the result of the administration settling a lawsuit that the president is on sort of both ends of, but also the risk that you could have people who assaulted police officers, January 6 rioters, end up getting taxpayer payouts. Optically, does this tee up an opportunity for Democrats? Do you see a way for the administration to save the messaging on this?
I think there's been plenty of speculation going to the worst possible outcomes here, but I just want to underscore the fact, and I think that's where the media is missing the point here. The justice system was weaponized against American citizens here. Retribution, the activity that the Biden administration used to go after their political opponents was unconscionable. It's violation of democracy and democratic principles. Again, it happened to me. I'm not seeking any sort of monetary compensation, and certainly nor is President Trump nor his family. But there are definitely citizens here in America that have suffered from this severely, and having one means of addressing it would be financial. The other is coming through and finding accountability for those officers within the DOJ, within the FBI, or any other law enforcement agency that was misused in the way that the Biden administration misused it.
And finally, the president has said that he was not aware of this. He found out about it after the fact. To your knowledge, do you know who had a hand in shaping it? Was it the acting attorney general? And do you think that that might impact his chances for confirmation if he were to be nominated to that position, given all of the pushback you've seen from your colleagues on the Hill?
Jackie, I don't have any insight into terms of how this was created, but I have plenty of insight in terms of the reason for this type of action, this sort of recompense for an unbelievable violation of American sovereignty here in America when you use our own government to go after our citizens. That's exactly what has happened with the Biden administration DOJ. This is at least one aspect of trying to address it. So up and down the system, there needs to be broad accountability. Those members of the DOJ that did this need to be brought to heel and brought to task. And again, I think this is obviously intended to try to address the financial harm that occurred to some Americans who were actually used and victimized by this weaponization.
And there's a lot of interest in it already. Okay, Senator Bill Hagerty, thank you so much for your time. Always great talking to you, sir.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.